Good morning from the 4th north latitude. It's approximately, I think 15 minutes to 11. So we're pretty far ahead of most of you guys, especially if you're listening to this in North America. But we just had a little meeting this morning, and we're having another meeting with a lady this afternoon who's very interesting. She builds sustainable buildings made out of bamboo, and she's coming with her son, and I'm gonna probably do some work with her. I've got a couple ideas how to turn this into a Bitcoin business, especially here in Suriname, but also maybe beneficial to do somewhere else, which is kind of cool. These houses wouldn't work everywhere, but would work great where you have sustainable tropical woods, which you do all along the top of South America and most of Central America and even into southern parts of Mexico. So it'd be pretty cool. And had a pretty amazing day yesterday with a bunch of guys from the Amazon. Tomorrow I head to the Amazon, so I'm pretty stoked about that, where I get to talk to shaman, how they use plant medicine and how it will be plugged into a decentralized medical law as part of the Constitution. I also understand that very soon some news will be breaking in Suriname where they'll be talking about they're getting ready to implement some of those ideas here. Some other cool things that happen, if you've been following my X feed or the Instagram feed, we went in and we saw this really cool company called UMA, UMA, that in the indigenous people's language here stands for woman. And this is a group of ladies who make bags out of animal skins and sustainable tropical hardwoods. And I have to tell you, probably some of the coolest bags I've ever seen. When I checked into the hotel here where I'm at now, this is a Courtyard Marriott in the capital city of Suriname. I saw these bags and I was like, wow, I've never seen a bag like this at all. So I asked the lady at the front desk about it, and she told me that they have a store in downtown shopping area. So when I went on the tour with the guys that you saw on my previous Instagram stuff, those were the guys that came from the Amazon who took me on the tour of the capital city. They took me to the store, and there I got to meet the designer. I got to meet the lady who sells it, and I also got to meet one of the girls that sweeps the floors in there, and she had told me that she had gotten scammed in cryptocurrency down here in Suriname by a guy, and I wound up giving her her cryptocurrency back that she lost and showed her how to secure it, which was really, really cool. And she was really happy. She took a picture with me. You can see she's holding her phone up. And I admonished the ladies who sold me the UMA bags that they didn't have a wallet down here so that they could accept cryptocurrency. So I made one of the ladies download Moon, and she was the lady that unfortunately was not the owner of the store, but she knew about Bitcoin. She also knew about some of the work that Maya Paraho is doing down here in Suriname. That's actually why we came, because she invited us down here. And we've met with quite a few people. I also got to meet with her new campaign manager, Lydia Goosens, and we're hoping to have dinner with her tonight, lunchtime, probably about the next hour and a half. I'm going to meet with 3 of the people for the tropical hardwoods sustain thing. But the reason this is important, these bags actually use the tropical hardwoods. For those of you who don't know what tropical hardwoods are, bamboo's one, teak and ipa are others, mahogany is another. These are very, very expensive woods in North America, but these woods are very, very cheap in certain parts of Central and South America. What makes them very interesting is they're very light wood, very dense. Termites can't eat them. And you can do something with it. And one of the things that I think people will be surprised about bamboo is that it has the tensile strength to steel. And the architect that's here that we're dealing with, she's originally from the Netherlands. She specialized in steel and gold, I should say steel and glass construction there. Very Scandinavian, minimalistic, kind of, low dopamine kind of design. And she got infected by the bamboo bug. And obviously Netherlands doesn't have these woods, but this area of South America used to be a Dutch colony, so everybody here speaks Dutch. So it was natural for her to come here and start to talk to the government. She's been talking to the current government about her plan, and she's due to meet with them, I believe, today after we meet with her, and they're supposed to give her 50 hectares of land for her to build these sustainable buildings. And the most important part of her story that I've learned, that she can build about 1,000 square foot bamboo hut. And I have to tell you, it's calling it a hut is really a bad thing, because the building itself is beautiful. But what she does is she's able to bend the bamboo as soon as they cut it, and they use techniques. And the crazy thing is, she told me that she can have trained people, a group of 5, to put this building up in literally 4 or 5 days. And I thought to myself, this is incredible for people that don't really have a lot of money. And I said, this also is a way for you to build a sustainable business for the people, that are down here. And then I thought about where else this could go. This could go everywhere tropical hardwoods are. Why? Because this is a resource that's free. And for those of you who don't know, that I think climate psychology and science is all bullshit. But there is something very unusual about bamboo that I've always known. Bamboo absorbs 5 times the amount of carbon dioxide of other plants. That's the reason it grows really fast, and that's also the reason why it has its tensile strength. It's also the reason why it can bend with the wind, and it can tolerate hurricanes. And that's the reason why bamboo tends to grow in places where the weather is pretty wild. Obviously down here in the top of the Amazon forest, you don't have a problem with climate change. In fact, most people don't know that Suriname has more forest on it than any country in the world. That includes Brazil. Why? Because Brazil has clear-cut a lot of the Amazon. This country here, I think, is 97% covered by tropical forest. So it's a very, very interesting place to be. But this bamboo can be used to do some amazing things. And I thought that she was processing the bamboo, and then she showed me that she's actually using raw bamboo. She's able to bend it without having to use any metal joints. And now she's got a new design that she wants to build for Maya here for an expo that they're having for the politicians here, where it's a geodesic dome. And that has to be put together with different types of metal fasteners. She's bringing those over from the Netherlands because there's not a lot of fabrication stuff here in Suriname. But I told her that I had a team in El Salvador that I believe could do this. So the meeting we're going to have today is we're going to talk about trying to build a team in El Salvador to actually start to see if we can put these little projects together. Because if we can, this is another way to start a construction business in an area that has these tropical hardwoods that are easy to get. And I think this is another thing that people need to understand. When you cut bamboo, because it's got these unique things, it grows even faster after you cut it. So that means it's highly sustainable. Why is this a big deal for Suriname? Again, another thing you may not know about Suriname, it has the largest gold mine in the world here that Newmont Mining's doing. We also believe, based on some of the geology stuff that I've done, similar to what I told President Bukele 2 years ago, that I believe Suriname also sits on a massive amount of lithium and rare earth elements. So what does that mean? It means for some of you who are paying attention to where I'm going, we're going to have to cut some of this forest down to get to some of the stuff that the world needs down below. to get some of this stuff. But the crazy part of the story is this lady's business. You can replant bamboo in all that nastiness that we pull out from mining. And instead of ruining the environment, because we're at the 4th latitude, and we can use the photosynthetic yield here to literally grow a brand new bamboo forest that the builders then can come in and then build houses all along the top of South America. And why is that important? Because it actually builds the middle class here. And that's one of the things that Suriname, El Salvador, Venezuela, Colombia have struggled to do literally for 200 years in their history. They never understand how to expand that middle class, and this is one of the ways, to do it. So when you actually think about that, this is like creative destruction. It's very similar to what nature's about, where you can take something apart and then she can reconstruct it. And the thing is, if humans do this right, and you're rowing in the direction that nature goes, this is a way you can tolerate mining at an industrial scale. And for those of you who don't know, what Maya Parabu's platform is for Suriname for her presidential election that's coming up on May 25th, she wants to basically sell all the gold that they can get, the rare earth elements, even some of the tropical forest. But what the big ticket is, most people are shocked to find this out. Suriname has bigger oil reserves than Qatar does in the Middle East. And they have a big deal right now with Total, which is a French giant who's down here. I think their first payment is due to be $2.8 billion 2 years from now. So the next president is going to make this decision what to do with that money. And of course, Maya's already told the world, through when I met her at Adopting Bitcoin, that she wants to actually take the oil, the gold, some of the tropical hardwoods, and immediately buy Bitcoin with it to make everybody in this country very wealthy. But she also wants to turn us into the first hyper Bitcoin country in the world, meaning that you just bypass the currency right away, completely bypass the central bank, eliminate corruption, and then probably the coolest part of her plan, this will show you how progressive she is. She wants to take some of that money and buy 40-foot thorium miners that are nuclear powered, but using thorium. For those of you who don't know, because you don't read my blogs, about 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago now, I wrote a blog about thorium mining that eventually was going to be the future of Bitcoining. And did I ever think that a girl from Suriname was going to come up with this idea at a global fucking scale, and she was going to use her natural resources to do this? Her selling the gold will impact, a lot of different things, but she's actually now rowing in the same direction as what Bukele's doing, and also what Trump and Bobby Kennedy are about. So the reason I decided to come to Suriname is I know the ball game is early here. It's very, very early. We got to get her elected, but to sit down and meet with someone in a country like this and to see her plan and talk to her people. Yesterday, these two guys in the Amazon forest that I talked to, I just had such a great time. I spent almost 4 or 5 hours with them and really learned about their people, learned about their political process. And, I've spent a lot of time with this builder. That's why I invited her to come back to see me today, because I have a business proposition for her. I think this could be something that could really help a place like El Salvador. Why? Because we have so many good workers in El Salvador, but they just don't have a way to make a really sustainable living. And if you've ever been to El Salvador, there's a lot of people who are poor that don't have, good shelter. They use galvanized steel, in a lot of the slums. And literally, we could give them a house overnight that they could pay slowly off while also giving them a job to make these houses. And why is this work for El Salvador? For those of you who've never visited or you've never seen my house in El Salvador is completely surrounded by bamboo. And it's a great EMF protector, but the fact that El Salvador has so much green and yellow bamboo in it, this means we have an unlimited supply. So this could be a huge opportunity, to help Bukele and help Maya build the middle class in these two poor countries while they're hyper Bitcoinizing it. And it's just a really cool thing to see, because this business model would not work, in Louisiana, would not work in Florida, would not work in the United States for two main reasons. We don't have sustainable hardwoods. We have to import it all. That shit's really expensive. I mean, I can tell you the deck that I built in my house in El Salvador, if I was to build that in my property in Louisiana or Florida, that deck would probably cost me $250,000. Down in El Salvador, that deck only cost me about $40,000. And if you saw how big the deck was, you'd be stunned. And this is a deck that currently right now is being refinished while I'm home. I decided to take the finish off of it, go back down, and do it a different way. I was talked into it by one of the carpenters in El Salvador who has a lot of experience with teak. And then I talked to this architect, and she actually agreed with this plan, so I gave him the go-ahead. So when I get home, it's going to be done, and I'll probably post a picture of it so you guys can see it. And this is not, a material that I have a lot of experience with. The reason I decided to do it in El Salvador, during our rainy season, we do have an issue with wood, and any of you who live in the States know if you use wood, in Florida, it usually gets tore up. You have to refinish it every year. There's a lot of maintenance with it. Well, this deck is so hard, it's resistant to termites, it's resistant to water. So you don't have to do shit with it if you really take care of it. So after learning that there's other techniques besides the techniques you hear about in Home Depot and Lowe's, that stuff is, teak oil and applications like that. I've been learning a lot, and I started to really think, down in the Central and South America areas, the weather here is spectacular. You don't need cooling systems. You don't need heating systems. All the stuff we talk about, insulation with these houses, is different. You can add palapas to the top of these houses, or you can use curved bamboo on the roof so that it almost looks like you're in Thailand, or the Asian tropics, which is how they do that. And this lady has learned to do all these things using metal spikes in the ground, and she actually cuts the bamboo in the forest and crafts the house, and then has the craftsman put it together in 5 days. And I have to tell you, the pictures that she showed me, I was just like, oh my God. I just think when people see what's possible, to take something that really is a free resource that nature gives us, and we can turn it into housing for people, and for them to see that they don't have to live in a dirt shack with galvanized that they always have to fix, because the weather here tears it apart. This is something, she told me that these buildings need minimal maintenance for the first 20 years they're built. You can't get a better deal than that if you're a person that doesn't have a lot of money. So from my standpoint, and when you can give somebody a job to build these things, I think, to me, I actually said to her, I said, we could build Lennar homes of Central and South America and completely revolutionize, at least, tropical home building. And I was thinking about even the Airbnb things, like people who have houses already in El Salvador, and you want to add on, say, a casita that you can Airbnb. This is another way for you to get an extra income. It's actually like an extra job. So these are the kind of things that happen with a decentralized Bitcoin economy. And I would encourage all of you, come visit Suriname. Some of you in the United States may think that that hat means I love Syracuse University because it's orange. No, that is Suriname's .su. And I have to tell you, the people here, the things that I've found, I'll be talking more about those down the road, especially about the social things. Some of the nicest group of people huge eclectic community. When I tell you the mix here is like I've never seen before, and it's actually reflected in the food. Like, for example, breakfast this morning, I had curried eggs. Never have had that in my life, and it was spectacular. You know, and it's a function of the people that are down here. So really, really cool time. Thought I would do a quick, Instagram to give you an idea about what's going on down here. This process for me going all over Central and South America began on December 21st, and we're not done. Next stop for us is the Amazon rainforest tomorrow. Take care, guys. Share it.